Class, and welcome to this morning's English lesson. So we've done a bit of a recap on diaries, we've done a bit of research and some experiences around Captain Scott's Antarctic adventure, and now we're going to jump straight into our sentence stacking lessons. So I know usually when we're doing non-fiction I would go through all the shapes, but I'm kind of going to try and do that as we go through this unit of work. Rather than doing one whole lesson on just the shapes. It's a little bit harder when you're not in the classroom with me. So these are our first shapes for this morning's lesson. So this one is obviously going to be our date. We've got to make sure we've got our accurate dates. This one is our greeting, or what they call a salutation. And then this one is going to be kind of a sequence of events. So it's kind of going to outline what Scott's journey is going to be over the next few lessons. So usually I know when you do a diary entry, we usually only get you to write one diary entry for a particular event. But on this occasion, we are going to be looking at short little diary entries over the course of Captain Scott's second Antarctic adventure. So our success criteria for today. So we are looking in our first chunk at verbs and using 3 of those as an opener to our sentence. We're going to be looking at noticing and parenthesis, and then in chunk 3, imagining lens and looking at using relative clauses. So starting off with our first chunk. So we're just going to have a look at these images. So if you wanted to pause the video here whilst looking, and we're just looking at what are they doing? So what are the people, so say characters, the people in these real life photographs doing? So think and see if you can come up with any ing verbs for the activities. So there might be some already in your Word document for chunk 1 this morning, but you also might want to note down some other things as well. So it's things like, I just want to make sure that you guys can still see this. So it's things like pushing through the ice. So we've got our pushing word. We don't just want the words, we want some phrases we can use. So pushing through the ice. Or they might just be observing. And you could write about what they are observing. There is, they're in this picture here, they are sleeping or resting, and you could say they are resting after a hard day's work. So you are going to be Captain Scott when you are writing these diary entries. So you need to remember that you're writing in first person as Captain Scott, and obviously you'll be talking about your crewmates and your teammates. So it'll be your teammates are resting, your teammates are sleeping after a hard day's work, that sort of thing. They could also be dreaming. You could also have the crewmates daydreaming. So if you thought about another picture, this one, they are fishing. So maybe you could talk on the first day about how they went fishing to collect some food. Transporting cargo. So we'll try and use some technical vocabulary whilst we're working this morning. And then we could also say that I haven't got a picture of the animals, I don't think, but they might be settling the animals on their first day. So thinking of all those things, if you're an Antarctic explorer and you've arrived at your destination, what are the first things you are going to be doing on day 1? Or what, as you as captain, going to be making sure your crewmates are getting done on the first day? Now we've also got, try not to reveal too much, his ship. So his second ship was called the Terra Nova. And you might want to come up with some things to describe his ship. So rather than just calling it the Terra Nova, you could describe it as the wooden, my pen isn't working today, the wooden whaler. because it was a whaling ship. Or you could call it the Marine Maiden. So you've got a little bit of alliteration here as well. You could talk about your crewmates as being seafaring sailors. You could talk about the ship being a seafaring sailor. Or if you didn't want to include any alliteration, you could call it a polar voyager. And you'll see where all these things kind of interlink when I show you the teacher model in a moment. So you will see within your teacher model that you have been given a provided opener. So we've given you the date that you need to use. So the 7th of January, 1911, and we've given you a starting sentence. So this is our salutation, our greeting. Now, again, as I always say, if you want to, you don't have to use the provided sentence. You have to use the date, obviously, because that is a fixed point in time, but you could change and adapt this opening sentence. Moving into our model. So you will see that there's a bit of deepening the moment. I will come to that bit in a second. It's just popping up at the bottom there. So our diary begins. To those who read this, after urging our wooden whaler, so there's our word, our alliterative phrase to describe our ship. After urging, and that's a verb for us. So it could be after persuading our wooden whaler through the clenching pack ice. So that's describing the ice. So we're making sure we're using the right adjectives. That one is describing our ship. The clenching is describing the pack ice, and you're going to want to describe it as pack ice because that's its technical vocabulary. Emptying the ship of its cargo. So it's emptying the ship of its cargo and constructing for days. We finally moved into our hut at Cape Evans today. So just a very kind of quick, this is the intro to our first part of our diary. These 3 chunks there are going to make up our first diary entry. So we're talking about how they've finally made it to where they need to be. They've been unpacking, they've been building for days, and they can finally now move into the hut that they have been building. And if you've had a chance to look at the Google Maps, you can actually go and explore virtually inside Scott's hut. So we've got 4 different verbs there describing 4 different things, or what 4 different things are doing. I also want you to think about deepening the moment though, because these diary entries are going to be quite short. So there'll be other things that we can add in. So I've given you an example here. It is not in your Word document. So if you want to deepen the moment, you're going to need to make sure you pause this video here when you get to it. But I've just extended this bit here. So after he's talked about the fact they finally moved into their hut at Cape Evans, Scott's going to go into talking a little bit about his feelings and about how concerned he might be, just to start with, about what's going to happen over the next months, years, whilst they're on this exploration. So I've deepened the moment by saying that as Scott, I am worried about the temperature and the increasing changes in weather, but I hope that my men and I will have the perseverance we need to complete this mission. We have a hut, and that's a start. Oh, and that should have an apostrophe in it. So I've just deepened the moment a little bit, not taken it too far, I've not given away too much information, but I've just shared about how I, as Scott, am feeling about the expedition ahead. Okay? So make sure you are deepening the moment in purple when you do it in your Word document. Give it a go. Remember to tag me in Teams if you're not sure what to write for chunk 1. Rewatch this video. Think about all the vocabulary that we've collected, and I will see you for chunk 2 in a moment.